all for joining us, and it's nice to see you all. I know it's been I think just over a month, maybe a month and a half, and hopefully you've had a chance to step away and kind of get a break. Looking back at our notes, one of the things is we left off where you had shared a financial proposal. And so today, in talking with Mary, we're ready to respond to that. And then based on time, Mary and I talked about possibility of you all sharing some working conditions, concerns potentially, and so we'll go from there. So what I have is the proposal that you all had given us, and this was June 9th, was looking at a 5% COLA, an increase in insurance contribution, a contribution towards a 403B, and then a change to the insurance proration based on hours. And so at that time, you had not had a chance to cost that out, and I believe Olivia has sent you information. And in looking at that, it was approximately a 1.2 million cost for that particular proposal. Also at that time, we were anticipating having budget reductions, potentially up to 5 million. And I know we have been waiting. We actually kind of delayed this meeting, hopefully getting some updates from the state, and that hasn't necessarily happened from what we want, but we do have some updated budget information I thought might be helpful for Olivia to share first. I know Ryan has shared some of that with staff, but I don't know if Hobie has had a chance, and I just thought it would be a good chance to refresh everyone, and then we can kind of go into the next step. So Olivia, can you go ahead and share the updates?
Yeah. So we're kind of focused on 3 things right now: the state revenue shortfall, our own district budget rebalancing, and the corrective actions required for us to maintain a balanced budget. And so about 3 weeks ago, the Joint Committee on Ways and Means co-chairs released their rebalance plan for the 1921 biennium. And so this was all positive news for us. They're committed to maintaining a $9 billion state school fund. They are committed to maintaining the high school success grant at the original allocation. The student investment account funds, which is part of the new Student Success Act, the co-chair's proposal was reducing that by about 2/3. So that was kind of the area we knew we were the most vulnerable in. And so we're looking at about a 68% reduction in funding there compared to what we had anticipated for this year. So what that means to the district in the end is our change in projected revenues is about $3.75 million less than what we had planned and what our adopted budget is based on. Because our revenues are projected to decrease, we can lower the level of general fund reserves a little bit to keep that in alignment with board policy. So when it comes to budget rebalancing, looking at the $3.75 million shortfall, we're going to use about $650,000 of budgeted reserves to put back in, which means that we're going to reduce our general fund budget by $3.1 million. Our departments, our district departments have already implemented budget reductions totaling $1.6 million. And so now we're in the middle of processing some staffing reductions that will total about $1.5 million, which is the equivalent to about 20 FTE. I believe that most of these positions are vacant, so we don't anticipate any layoffs at the moment. But I would say that this is sort of as of today, and there are 3 things we're really keeping our eyes on in terms of moving forward. We our state school fund payments are based on a lot of assumptions, including projected enrollment. So that is an area that we will be looking at pretty seriously during the month of September through October. If our projected enrollment is more than what we actually have, that means we'll have to do additional reductions. Other areas that we're looking at include our property tax assessments. So we make some assumptions there too. And when the counties release that information in the fall, we'll want to compare that to what we projected. And sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. And then the last is the results of collective bargaining. So our budget included some assumptions around that. And so if the results of bargaining are different than that, we may have to make additional reductions as well. So those are kind of the three big unknowns when it comes to our budget right now. And on some of those, we won't have that information for a couple more months.
Any questions about that information?
No,
Okay, and Mary, we can see you now.
I know, I got techie, I fixed it.
All right. So
Actually, I just have one question. Is there some kind of spreadsheet or form that you can send that information to us in, so we can, when we're talking through our thing, our scenarios, we can look at that?
Sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll send that right now.
So based on the budget information and based on what our two goals have been through this whole process, and Ryan has said this several times, is maintaining current staff and instructional days. Our counter proposal is 0.5% COLA and no increase in insurance contribution. And I know, I believe it was earlier this month, there was the small group that met with insurance and made some adjustments to the amount being contributed out of the reserve funds. And that was a pretty significant contribution, which in looking at the plans and everything actually helps the members quite a bit in the various plans where there's pretty minimal if you're full-time out-of-pocket costs. The other thing just to speak to is the 403B contribution. I believe that was put out there based on, it was a one-time offer last year with teachers. We are not doing that moving forward. And then there was also a request to change the insurance proration to 6.5 hours a day, or a total of 32.5 hours being considered full-time. If you recall, last year, we actually made a pretty big change on that and moved it actually to 7 hours, which actually had a real positive impact as well for a number of our employees. So the two pieces, in addition to, and I will send you the document with this. Last time we also just trying to update the retiree language to be in compliance with PERS. So I also have that noted still on there. Nothing substantial, it just makes sure we're aligned with that language.
And then as far as steps?
At this point, we are, since we are past July 1, we are just moving forward with steps in place.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece just to, again, for us is trying to figure out how do we maintain school days, maintain the staff that we have, the high caliber staff that we have, and understanding that we still are in the situation that we're in. Last time it was no step or COLA really is how we thought we were going to have to do this. And so this is, while it still doesn't feel like a huge increase in COLA, it is definitely a big step for us, understanding the sacrifice that's going to cost in those two other priorities. So again, that's really where I think we can land, understanding the lay of the land with regards to finances for the upcoming year.
So do you want us to caucus and come back? Do you want us to, I mean, is this the offer then and that we should review and Ryan and go from there? Or-
So do you want to caucus and then Mary, you can text me when you're ready?
That sounds perfect.
Okay, approximately how much time just to start with and then maybe do a check-in? Do you think like 20 minutes? Kind of just to gauge how much time you guys need?
I think it'll be about 15, 20 minutes.
Why don't you give us actually, why don't you give us about a half hour actually? So we can
Okay.
look at some of the documents that you're sending over as well.
Okay,
Okay.
And then, so we're gonna close this window and you have another one set up for a caucus.
Yes, we have another one set up.
Okay.
okay, so I guess, so anyone who's viewing this through the YouTube is there will be a caucus for approximately half hour and then we'll do a check to either regroup and we'll let anyone know who's watching at that time.
Okay.
So 10:45 is probably when we'll come back together then.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
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 So now my camera is failing. That's probably what it is because I'm not out of that other meeting.
Well, I'm still in it too, and I even closed it down. So how do, it's like, how? Stop video, maybe? No. Oh, sorry,
remove-
everyone. I'll
Sure.
figure it out.
I can remove you.
Why
from the
can't
meeting.
this shut down? Sorry.
Here,
I'm
remove you
just-
guys.
Who else is on the line with us?
Just the tech person who's hosting,
Okay.
but I can
So-
remove you from the meeting if you'd like.
Oh, please do. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hello.
There we go.
Hi, Marcy.
Hey. I did it on my phone, so I shouldn't bump out using my phone.
See your
I-
dog behind you. Where are you?
Oh, that's from when I was joining the classes to the kids and talking to the
Oh,
kids last spring. They
uh-huh.
asked dogs, so I made it my background
Oh, that's cool.
on Zoom. So on my phone part, not on the,
Uh-huh.
it only happens when I use my phone. But it's not like I can go like this and be like, there's Roxy.
Oh,
Nobody else is in yet. That's weird. Or am I not seeing people?
you're not seeing people
You're
because
not
we're
seeing
here.
people because your phone's so small screen.
Thank you.
There you are. Okay.
We'll quit talking personal stuff. I thought it was just me and Mary.
We're all
That's all right.
enjoying the picture of your dog though, Marcy.
I know. Expect something to be running in the background or flying through. It's really cool. Is
I
everybody
think we
back?
have everyone back.
Okay. All right. So when we left, it gave us a lot to digest. So we're going to need some time. We're going to ask Olivia for a little bit more information if possible, and then we want to think about this for a bit and digest it to come back with an offer next time. And I know right now we have like a late meeting in August 18th or something. I don't know if we want to make that sooner. If that
Probably
would-
should look at if we can, yeah.
Right, if we can do that. And then come back with a counter for the next meeting.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and put in your request to Olivia?
Yes. Mhm.
Just everybody keep in mind that we have the COVID thing that has to be turned into the state by the 15th. So just don't put too much in that week.
Oh, we're well aware of that.
I'm sure.
I figured.
Yeah, we have that. That's actually done and going to the board tomorrow night for a first look.
Already done for.
Yeah.
Great.
And met with the health department and all that. Now we aren't meeting in person with students, but we still had it developed as if we were in the hybrid. So
Now you have to adjust and resend, or is that a?
no.
No, okay. So did we want to, does that work for you all then to reschedule and counter proposal next meeting?
What was the date again?
For us to reschedule and another meeting for a counter proposal?
It's August 18th. Do we want to meet before that?
Could we look at maybe the week before, the week of the 10th as a possibility?
If it's the Thursday or Friday?
What if we look at Thursday, the 13th?
I can do the 13th if it's in the morning. I have another commitment starting around 12:30 for the rest of the day. And I can do the morning of the 14th for my schedule.
Those both work for me.
Yep, me too.
Neither one will work actually. The 13th is the board retreat. It's just not booked in the calendar yet, and then I'm out on the 14th, so I can't do either one of those.
Okay.
What about the afternoon of the 12th? Not the morning, but the afternoon of the 12th.
We're bargaining with CEA on that afternoon.
I'm not available either.
What about the 10th, Monday?
I might be able to call in, but I wouldn't be able to video in.
I have that open.
I have the 10th in the afternoon open after anytime after 1 o'clock.
Ryan and Olivia?
That works for me.
So 1 to 3
On which day?
on Monday, the 10th?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would suggest we add that one and leave the 18th in case for,
Okay.
you know, I mean, hopefully, right, we would like to settle, but just in case.
Okay,
So we will send out an invite for August 10th, 1 to 3. And then Mary, are you just gonna email Olivia or did you want to let her know right now what you needed?
why don't I email her, because I can make a little more explanation. One was I didn't know if she has the new updated pay sheet, you know, where you put in the step for this year, because in the contract was just last year for this current year, but the one that we're working off of now as of
July 1st.
July 1.
Yeah,
Every day.
I can recreate that for you. There will be a lot. I guess the big question is, do you only want positions that are currently filled? Because when we look at it, we look at all of the budgeted positions. And I
Right.
could do it either way, but
But I was just thinking, you know, that long one where it has the steps and the,
oh, I got you.
That-
Yeah.
and then the other one I was asking for was if there was one that we used last year, and I don't know if it's available to do in this, where let's say there was a 1% COLA, we could put that in and see what
Yeah.
changes it made to the numbers, or if we
Yeah.
went either. Okay,
Okay, gotcha.
those were the big things. And then, yeah, and then the other on positions, if that's possible.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Mary, did you want to, did you have anything on working conditions?
That's what I wondered. I didn't know on the COVID how we wanted to do that. We had had some things in place, and then when we changed not going back in person, I still am concerned, you know, for those that are still working, that it continues with the safety, all that, and their working conditions. And to bargaining on, like, for continued employment with wages and benefits for classified employees, how their work days will look. And then if we get to where we talked about perhaps some may need to move around, we weren't sure on that. All that would have to be bargained. I know we started talking about the sick leave and then trainings. I'm really concerned on that, with it all being online again for classified training on, you know, boundaries, how to attend and what to do at virtual meetings. And they do need to be trained in Canvas, I think sooner rather than later. And then if anyone ends up working out of classification, how that would work. The childcare piece, I'm not even sure how we hit that. And then those people who have serious health conditions. I know you're working on that. So those were some of the things I had. Hobie, I don't know if you had others, but.
Yeah, I think that's pretty close. I mean, the only other thing I think you touched on it would be training. If you're doing something different, how you get that training. And there might be situations where you want people taking temperatures and things, and obviously those people, we want them to get the proper training so we're not adding to a bad situation by not doing it correctly. And I don't think there's anything super critical to where we can't work it out. I haven't come across it with any of the other chapters that I work with. It's been more of just trying to figure out. We're going to have a little more flexibility to figure some of this stuff out, because I don't think any of us wants to live with anything we agree to during this time. We don't want to change the contract to, you know, refer to any of this stuff. So we can, since we're doing an MOU, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, I believe we left a clause in the last MOU so we could amend it so we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel here, but just add in an amendment for the fall. So there's a lot of things taken care of in that. So I think I'm hoping, I'll cross both my fingers, I'm hoping this will be a much easier process than the last few we went through. But we just got a few things to touch on. And quite frankly, there's going to be things that pop up during the process that we'll probably have to talk about. But
Yeah.
I think Mary's list is pretty comprehensive for what we're trying to figure out ahead of time.
So I'm anticipating we do a new MOU just because everything's different starting in the fall with the new school year. The
Oh, okay.
governor's order is no longer paying everyone unless you're
Right.
working kind of thing. We've already, that kind of stopped at the end of June. And we are, and this is actually a lot of it's in our blueprint and some of it's through the workforce group, Mary, that we're in. You know, we've been talking about the training. Yes, any new pieces that we're doing, we need to provide training. We recognize that. We're working on the specifics. You heard me yesterday talk about with administrators looking at what it's going to look like in the fall for our classified or support staff, especially when I think about like our educational assistants and maybe our library folks and some of those. That in the spring it was kind of that emergency teaching school. We were pretty flexible, pretty lax. We are needing to go in and having a strong start to the school year. And so we are working with principals and identifying what are those duties that our classified staff will be doing, what schedules, and being able to share that on the front end. And with that, is there any additional training? Once we come back to school, we also, and this is part of the blueprint as well, is that we have to provide training to all staff on what that looks like. That's about safety protocol. Any, you know, for example, if it's cleaning, for just even wiping things down, the re-entry of staff and students, what does that look like? And I know for those who are currently going into buildings right now, every staff member, as they sign in on the clipboard, are attesting to they don't have symptoms, they haven't been exposed, all of that. Those sorts of things will continue. We're actually looking at putting a COVID component into Safe Schools. So last spring, we had tried to have all of our classified staff be able to complete Safe Schools. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Our rate of completion was fairly low, which was, to be honest, disappointing, because we were hoping we'd have that out of the way and then could move forward on these other, but that will be a priority because that needs to be done. And we're gonna put a few more trainings a part of that. Working out of classification, yes. I'm kind of working from the premise is we always have that clause, other duties as assigned, as long as it's not a higher pay level position. We have some flexibility there because again, since we're virtual, we do need to be flexible. Our goal is to maintain current staff. So some people will be doing some things different. I think about our library folks, right? They're not going to be in the libraries. They'll be working with kids in different capacities, things like that. The leave, so Hobie, just so you know, I've been working with Mary and Peg, who is the CEA Association president, on creating hopefully a simple document to understand what leaves are available, and recognizing with COVID, there will need to be sort of additional conversations that we normally have from someone just taking sick leave, because there's federal forms, there's things individuals have to attest to in order for us to apply those laws. And we've created forms, and we've also incorporated those leaves on the one document that we'd like to be able to share out, and starting to put systems in place so we can be able to process that for individuals. So we think, I do believe we have a lot of it in place, or at least working on it if it's not completed at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are on top of it, which is great. I wish I could say that for all my chapters, but maybe the next step would be for me, you and Mary to have a little Zoom and go over the blueprint. I know you're going to show it to the board. I think Ryan said tonight or tomorrow. Maybe after that, so they can kind of look at it and see where they see issues. Maybe the three of us can set and see where we might see potential conflicts, and then we can just try to smooth those out, and then maybe get this done sooner than later. If you have the time to meet, maybe Mary and I can meet with you and via Zoom, and we can figure that out. Because seeing that blueprint, and I understand you want to show it to your board first, that makes sense, would be helpful, because we'd be able to see the things you're telling me right now, and we'd also be able to see if there's anything we're saying, oh, what about this? Just think about this issue, and the one area where we've done that, it's been very collaborative, it's been very helpful, and there were some issues that the administrators hadn't thought of, right? Because they don't do those jobs. So, for a while. So I think that would be helpful if we could figure that out, maybe get something scheduled on the books for that, just so we don't run out of time, because the 15th is coming quick. So, but yeah, it sounds really good. It sounds good. What's that, Ryan?
Also, if you go to our district website and go to board meetings, We use a system called Board Book, and it has the agenda, and then it has the agenda with attachments. And in that, there's a hot link, and it will take you through each one of those blueprints. So even before you meet, it would be an opportunity to review that.
Sure.
So yeah, so I think it's still great for the three of you to get together. At the same time, it's sort of like the documents Olivia sent, just so you have it ahead of time.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And we can do that, but I think that's helpful, and it probably will make questions, but I think Jennifer, who was involved with the process, can say, well, this is what this means specifically, right? So I think you're right. I think both will be helpful. So I will take a look at that as well before we meet.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we can find a time to do that, but I think having a chance to look at that ahead of time can kind of give you some information would be great.
Yeah, give us a place to start. I agree. Yep.
Okay, anything else at this time?
I don't think so. Unless there's something else you think of that we need to ponder. There's lots right now.
No, because it sounds like you all want to look at some financials and kind of think through some stuff. And so then back on August 10th, we'll come back to that. As far as working conditions, you'll look at the blueprint. We'll schedule a meeting to touch base. I would say, I think a good piece is that we're not going back face to face until at this point, we're saying 6 weeks, which means October 19th. That's also going to depend based on if the metrics are met based on what the governor has put out. So we recognize that. And so a lot of the blueprint actually has to do with the face-to-face, but we also recognize making sure training has been put in place and that type of thing. And we definitely can work through that. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. Well,
All right. Well, then thank you all, and we will talk later.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Union team, can you jump back into the caucus real quick?
Yep.
Thanks.